Hey ladies, it's your girl Cherie here. Welcome to Black Women Making Money. So, I did this session a couple of days ago on a panel, and I wanted to come and bring it to all of you today. It's all about how we can build generational wealth, especially as Black people, especially as Black women, if we have children and we are trying to set up not only our lives, but their lives and grandchildren and great grandchildren. How do we do it, and how do we do it successfully? So, um, there's a simple formula when it comes to building generational wealth. Four things you got to do: you got to make money, you got to manage it, you got to multiply it, and you got to preserve it. So, once again, the four things you got to do: you got to make money. How much money are you making in your family? How do you make more money? How do you bring more money into your household? If you're choosing to get married, how do you actually choose somebody who is going to truly add into the financial pot? I know that there are other factors and other things that men need to bring to the table, but I'm a money person, not a relationship person. So there are a lot of other outlets out there who could talk to you about like what other characteristics they need to have. But for this purpose, I'm just talking about money, pure money. The household budget. Are you going to do multi generational living? Meaning you're going to live with your mom and yourself, and maybe you have an adult daughter or an adult son that's also contributing to the household. We have to figure out, how do we make money? How do we make the most amount of money possible for ourselves? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today. Then the second is, how do we manage it? How do we manage our money? How do we really budget for the things that we need in life without it breaking the bank? How do we have more money at the end of the month versus month at the end of the money? Then, how do we multiply that money? What kind of investments are we going to be in? Um, are we buying stocks? Are we buying real estate? Are we buying I bonds, ETFs? Um, there's all sorts of things. You could be investing in debt, meaning that you're buying other people's debt, all sorts of things you can invest in. Then, how do you preserve that money? The rich, this is one of the things that I learned, and I'm going to show you a resource today about this as well. The rich think 4 generations ahead. They think 100 to 120 years ahead. So the question for you is, how do you preserve your money? How do you teach your kids in such a way that they will preserve the wealth that you are building up? I'm going to show you something where the majority of young Black kids that grew up in the middle class, they we call it regress. Um, you know, in the next generation. So, what are some of the things that we need to do so that our kids can move forward instead of regressing? So, those are the four things. Again, the simple formula for generational wealth is: number one, you got to make it. Number two, you got to manage it. Number three, you got to multiply it. And number four, you got to preserve it. So, let's talk about make it. I'm going to kind of break these down a little bit for you. How do you make money? How do you make more money? Now, I have a thought that I don't think you can build wealth on generation. I'm sorry. I don't think you can build wealth on poverty wages. When I was on the panel, I was actually told by someone who is a certified professional that actually you can. And what he explained to me was, if you make $35,000 and you live in Oklahoma and you don't have any consumer debt and you live a really frugal life, you can do it. And I'm like, okay. And also, what happens if you live on the coast, and you make 35,000? And he said, my grandfather, and this is not a knock against the person, I actually like the person. We had a great conversation out of him. He said, my grandfather was able to do that. He only made 35,000 a year and he put 5 kids through college. And I said, but that was in what? The 1960s, is that the same state? He said, no, 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 you can do it. So he does say that you can do it. You have to have special circumstances of making $12 an hour and being able to build generational wealth. but I don't want you to be there. I want you to actually have a good living. So, um, you want to think about how you can maximize your income. I'm going to share my screen here with you because I want to show you a couple of things that's happening just in the world and in the economy here. So, the first thing is I'm fascinated by robots and all the things that robots are going to be able to do. I'm going to do a special robot show probably next month sometime because I still have some more research that I want to do because I want to do a really good deep dive into it. But if you work in not only fast food, but just food in general, you're in food services, you're a chef, whatever, the robots are not only going to be flipping burgers, doing fries, having kiosks, all the cashiers are being moved out, things like that. You have here where the robots are able to take your order of avocado and mango and things like that. And, this thing here, be able to you know, put your burrito together for you, your salad together, toss it for you, things like that. Why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this because the skills you have today may be obsolete in the next 10 years. These robots are going to move 4.5 million Black Americans out of their jobs, but it's not just food services and food services, period. It's also in healthcare. You may start seeing some of the robots that are coming in order to do various things within healthcare. So this one here is actually being able to pull medication and potentially bring it to patients, right? These robots here are able to help with surgeries and things like that. So I'm not here to scare anybody. I am here to say that the skills that you have today, you want to make sure that you are staying ahead of those skills. So there was a McKinsey report that was done in 2019 that said 4.5 million African Americans could lose their jobs due to automation. And again, when I was on the panel a couple of days ago, and when I brought this to everyone's attention, one of the panelists said, yeah, it's not just Black Americans, it is the working class. The working class is going to be disrupted by automation, right? 4.5 million Black Americans. It's going to affect a lot of blue collar jobs, including our people who work in restaurants, our people who work in healthcare. I'm going to show you some robots that are able to mow lawns and things like that, clean your house, etc. But it's also going to affect white collar businesses as well. So, automation with blockchain specifically, if you're doing any kind of repetitive work, for example, if you're doing any kind of auditing, blockchain, blockchain is a new type of technology. Blockchain is going to disrupt you and your company and your business and potentially your job. The wealthy are putting hundreds of billions of dollars into blockchain, and it is going to be able to do uh, different types of auditing services and things like that. I'm not going to go into the technology today, but just to recognize that this is coming. This is forthcoming. So, job losses for African Americans could be 4.5 million in the next 10 years. This was again came out in 2019. This was pre COVID. This is according to a McKinsey report called The Future of Work in Black America, explaining that American workers will have the coming decade due to automation in the workforce. African Americans will face 10% more job losses than the general population. And again, this is because of the types of companies that we work in and the types of services that we do or jobs that we have. So I want to prepare you as much for this as possible and say that there are things that you can do in order to, first of all, make sure that you stay ahead of your skills. And number two, to make sure that um, you you make as much money as possible because that's very important. So I always tell people that there are about 5 or 6 industries that you really want to think about getting into. Number one is tech. And a lot of people think that tech is just coding. It is not. There are a lot of jobs within tech that you can participate in. There's quality assurance, there is customer success, you could be an account executive, you could do sales within a tech company, you could do project management, product management, etc. So I am going to show you another resource right now, and that is this resource here. This is it, Launch Code. Launchcode.org. The executive director is a Black woman. And with Launch Code, you could do it anywhere in the country. They will. They have centers in Philadelphia and I think St. Louis and one other place in the country, but you can also take their classes online. It is free. They have different tracks that you can do, whether you want to be a coder, then they will teach you how to code. Or if you want to learn quality assurance, you want to learn how to be a project manager, a product manager within um, the tech industry, and they will also help you with your resume and help you get a job. So they have all sorts of employers that they work with here. MasterCard, Microsoft, Boeing, Amazon, Edward Jones, places like that. I really do suggest, ladies, that you consider technology as an option. So again, we're talking about making money. So number one industry you can get into is tech. Number two is accounting and taxes. The IRS is hiring like 50,000 people. My accountant is even hiring accountants. There are a lot of opportunities within accounting and taxation, especially with the PPP loans. The IRS is looking for, you know, ways to figure out who scammed the government, things like that. So that's, excellent industry to get into. Number three is the trades. So even if you're a great office manager, you don't necessarily have to be the appliance repair person, or you don't have to be the person that goes and fixes, you know, the electricity or anything like that. You could just be a really great administrator that knows how to run that office. So definitely working within the trades. Number four is sales. That's another way for you to make money. Good salespeople make 6 figures, 100,000, 150,000. Great salespeople make $250,000. Excellent salespeople make half a million plus. I happen to know a guy who makes $1 million a year in sales. And on the panel that I was on a couple of days ago, the host said, yeah, I know somebody like that too. So if you get really good at sales and you get with the right company, you have the right base pay, the right commission package, you could work from home, number one, be with your kids, number two, and make a very good living in sales. The final way that you can make money is entrepreneurship, which of course is what I talk about a lot on this channel. Entrepreneurship is a skill. There is a skill to lead generation. There is a skill to converting people into sales. There is a skill to getting people to pull out their credit card and give you money. There is a skill to hiring people. There is a skill to being able to do the back office operations. But these are all ways for you to make money. So again, with generational wealth, you need to think about how you're making money yourself and then how the household is making money. So again, our formula for generational wealth, you got to make it, you got to manage it, you got to multiply it, and you got to preserve it. So let's talk about number two. Let's talk about managing money. Managing money is about figuring out how you make more, spend less, or at least not overspend. So if you make 70,000 a year, but you're spending 90,000 a year, eventually you're going to go bankrupt. Those numbers will never match up. The whole goal is how can you make 70,000 a year and put 20, 30%, 40% into investments. How do you do that? Well, you do want to think about how you are going to manage your money. How are you going to budget your money um, with the things that you have? For example, your cell phone. Do you need the biggest plan? Do you really need the biggest data plan, right? Or are you overspending with going out to eat? Or are you overspending with other aspects of your budget? So I want to show you here another resource that I have for you. Actually, a few resources. So this is Girl Get Your Money Straight. This is by Glenda Bridgeforth. My mother read this book many years ago. She loved it. And it is a way for you to actually figure out how to get your money together, um, and how to actually manage your money. Another person is Dave Ramsey. Many of you may have heard of Dave Ramsey. He has this book called Baby Steps. And one of the great things about it is he talks about the every dollar budget. And what he says is that every dollar needs to be spoken for. So if you have a dollar that comes into your household, you will have a certain amount that needs to go into your rent or your mortgage. You may have a certain amount that needs to go to utilities, etc. Ultimately, you want to also have a budget for your investments and a budget for the fun that you want to have as well. Because I don't think that anyone should live with um, such a minimum that they're not having fun. So you could say, hey, I've got my fun money over here, and it's for me to have drinks with the girls, or it is for me to take that vacation to Jamaica, or whatever it is that you want to do. This is another opportunity and option for you to read. And you can get both of these books, honestly, in order to figure out how to manage your money. Another resource that I really trust is Freeman Capital. This is freemancapital.co. They are a Black owned financial planning company. They are certified. They've got wonderful, it's a nice small company, a few people that actually work there. They have a 6 month financial planning program that they have, and they have a year-long program. So you really do get a chance to kind of work through your mindset with regards to your money. You really do get a chance to work through your budget. And I like them because they also understand some of the cultural things that we have to go through as Black people. Sometimes you have to take care of your mom or baby sister or baby brother or something like that. And they understand a lot of the cultural stuff that we have to go through. And they help you kind of maneuver through that as you are managing your money. So I like them a lot. So again, thanks everyone for being here. Don't forget to like the video as well, just for the algorithms. So the formula for generational wealth, again, number one, you got to make money. You making money yourself and the household overall. How much money is the household bringing in? Number two, you got to manage it. Number three, you got to multiply it. And number four, you got to preserve it. Those are the four things you got to do, right? Okay, so we've already talked about making money. We've talked about managing money. Let's talk a little bit about multiplying money. Um, there are all sorts of investments that you can get into in order to multiply your money. So you could get into real estate, for example, and there's a lot of different ways that you can get into real estate. You can decide you want to buy a duplex or a triplex or something like that. And check with your attorney, check with your accountant about this, but it's my understanding that you could buy a triplex, for example, because I've heard people do this before. You could buy a triplex, you could go through a program like NACA. NACA stands for the National Association of thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. This came up recommended. Thank you so much. Um, so NACA stands for the National Housing. Oh my goodness. It's a way for you to get your mortgage. Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. That's what it stands for. Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. So I'm going to pull this up here so you ladies are able to see it. And I like NACA. Um, I know certain people who have been able to buy homes through NACA. And the point I was talking about with multiplying it is you are able to, for example, buy a triplex, use the NACA program. You could use it. And what it is a down payment assistance program where you could basically get into a house or a home with no money down. Now, I will tell you that you want to take a look at other people's videos who have gone through the NACA process. It is something that usually takes about 9 months on average. Everybody that I'm hearing from says this. I also, within another company that I'm a part of, I interviewed a few people that went successfully through the NACA program. They pretty much say this as well. But the government, the US government, has resources for us to be able to multiply the money that we have. So you could basically get into a triplex. You could live, in one apartment, rent out the other two apartments. The other two people who are paying their rent are basically paying your mortgage, and you could be living rent free. So that's one of the first things that you can do. With real estate, you are also able to invest in mobile homes as well. So I have to admit, I don't know that much about investing in mobile homes, except that people are buying land, they're buying the mobile homes, they're putting them on their lots, and they're basically getting rent from people who are renting out these mobile homes. So definitely do your research on it. The one thing I will say about real estate is be very careful of the tenants, because some of these tenants know the landlord laws and the real estate laws better than you do. They know what they can get away with. They know that you can't put them out for certain things. So definitely be cautious and aware. But people have been able to set up their retirement, set up their life through buying real estate. So that is one way that you can multiply your wealth, because we're talking generational wealth here, not generational income. So you take the income and you put it into assets, and the assets build wealth. So real estate is one of those things. You can get into tax deeds as well. There are people who buy tax deeds, then they foreclose on the property, and then they own the house, and they're able to either sell it for profit, or they're able to rehab it, and turn it into a rental. If you turn it into a rental, then you're really building generational wealth. So there are people that's their strategy. They want to buy a whole bunch of properties. Another thing you can invest in is tax liens. That's something I'm looking to get into in the fall, where you are able to buy somebody, for example, doesn't pay their real estate property tax bill. So, what the county will do is they will sell the debt to investors, usually for, my understanding is, an 18% interest rate. So there are investors that will come in and they will buy these tax liens from these counties. And the reason the counties are selling the tax liens is because they have operational expenses, and they will need the money right away. So you get to, as the investor, you get to buy these tax liens, and you get to earn 18%. And when I was in the class with the person who taught me how to do this, I said, does it matter when they pay? Like, if I invest in this on Tuesday and the person pays on Friday, are they still giving me 18%? The answer was yes. that is what happens. You get your 18%. So there are people who have portfolios of tax liens, and that could be a way that you multiply your money. Okay. Another way to multiply your money is stocks. You can buy two types of stocks. The first type are appreciating stocks. So if you think Uber is going to appreciate, if you think Amazon is going to appreciate just means go up. If you think any of these companies that have stocks are going to go up, you can buy that, add that to your portfolio. The other type of stock that you can buy are dividend stocks. So there are public utilities that have dividend stocks. There are, I think AT&T has dividend stocks, have dividends, sorry, and you are able to actually purchase these. There are some people that get 20, 30, 40% of their income every year from dividends. So that is again how you're able to multiply your money. Um, there are options. Stock options is another way to multiply your money. There are people out there that teach how to invest in stock options. The two people I really like are Dr. Kelly DeClue. She has her class is a little bit pricier, but she has some great. She has a great mastermind, and they really do kind of take you by the hand and really teach you a lot, from step A to step Z, how to buy stock options, how to make money from them. Another person I really like is Diamond Dave. I am in his class, and his class does teach you as well how to buy stock options. So I bonds is something I recently heard of. Camari Ellis talks about I bonds a lot. That's the Finance Rebel on YouTube if you all are looking for him. Um, and he is the one that taught me about I bonds. The way that it works is that it is linked to the interest rate. And as the interest rate goes up, a lot of people will buy I bonds to hedge against inflation. So I bonds right now, my understanding is about 9% interest. There are also ETFs that are linked to I bonds. So you all should really check those out. But part three of generational wealth is putting your money into assets and creating family investment clubs or family banks that hold your family assets. The other thing I will tell you is this. So there's a little trick. Again, check with your accountant, check with your attorney on this, but everyone I've spoken to said this is perfectly legal. If you have kids, if you set up your family investment club as an entity, let's say you set it up as a corporation and you have kids, let's say you have two kids ages 8 and 12, do not pay them an allowance, because an allowance is not tax deductible. Instead, what you do is you pay them under the corporation and you make them a research assistant or a researcher for your family investment club. And you have a family meeting every week. And every week, your two kids have to come and present a new investment in front of the family. So they may have to look at a stock, they may have to analyze it, and they may have to give the family their recommendation about whether or not they think that this is a good investment for the family and for the family investment club. What is that going to do for your kids? It's going to do several things. Number one is it's going to teach your kids research skills. Number two is going to teach your kids financial literacy. And number three is going to teach your kids persuasion skills. And when I go further on in my notes here, like those are a couple of the things that your kids, your grandkids, and your great grandkids are going to need in order to make it in this world in the next 20, 30, 50 years, or those things. So then you're able to pay your kids not, not as an allowance, which is not tax deductible, but you're able to pay them as the researcher of the family bank, and you're able to get a deduction, and they would have earned that money as well. So again, that's just a little tip there for you to kind of think about with regards to your family banks. So um, another thing to think about when it comes to multiplying your money is, if possible, try to become an accredited investor. What's an accredited investor? An accredited investor is somebody, as a single person, who makes $200,000 a year, or as a married couple that make $300,000 a year plus. The reason I'm suggesting you try, if you can, if you have the type of job and you're in part of the specific industry, if you have a husband who is able to help you get there, The reason I want to become an accredited investor is because it allows me to get in rooms with specific types of investments that are only offered to accredited investors. So, like oil and gas and like other sophisticated real estate syndications and things like that, a lot of them are not offered to us unless we're accredited investors. So, as a Black woman, as you're thinking about how do I build generational wealth, if you the more access you have to different types of investments, the better chance you have of really multiplying your money. And all things Nata Jean, thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for being here. Okay, don't forget to like, everybody. Don't forget to like the video. Thumbs up, please. Okay, so again, simple formula for generational wealth. Four things you got to do. You got to make money, you got to manage it, you got to multiply it, and you got to preserve it. So we've talked about the first three. Now let's talk about preserving your money. Okay. So there are different things you can do with regards to preserving your money. One of the big things that we have in our family is a family trust, where our assets are in the family trust. Our home, we have businesses, we have other assets that are within the family trust. There are other people like Freeman Capital that I showed you earlier today that can help you really think about how to preserve your money. But I think that it is important for you to talk with an estate planning attorney who can really help you, who has other rich clients, because hopefully you're going to be not only rich but wealthy, who has other wealthy clients who can kind of help you figure out what documents you need in order to preserve your wealth. Like, for example, like I said, we have a family trust that helps us not go through probate. I interviewed a woman, Vanessa, a while ago, and she said that her father died. He was a wealthy judge or something like that. She's a Black woman, and he was a wealthy judge, and he left this money. The money was in a trust, and she was kidding. She said he's been dead for years, but I still have to abide by the rules of the trust that he created, when he was alive. What does that mean? What it means is there is a statistic that says that if your kids inherit money, most of them will spend the money within 9 months, not invest it, but spend it. They will waste it. If you set up your documents right, if you set up your trust right, if you set up your life insurance right, where the life insurance goes into some sort of a family investment club that has rules and regulations, the rich the rich are not smarter than you. They set up their paperwork different from you. They set up their paperwork so their kids, their grandkids, and their great grandkids cannot sell the underlying assets that you have worked hard to build and collect for the family, right? They That's the way they preserve their wealth. I used to think, because we're told this all the time, just get a life insurance policy. If you just got a life insurance policy, right, your kids could be wealthy. No, no, that's not how they do it. The kids are wealthy because they have these family investment clubs and these family banks, and the family banks are structured in a way that when the kids are doing whatever they're doing, they can't squander the money. So, hey, Mocha Mommy, Rich Auntie vibes. Yes, it is. So, I want to give you a resource because I'm very much big on resources here to give you. This is a book called Family Wealth: Keeping It in the Family: How Family Members and Their Advisors Preserve Human, Intellectual, and Financial Assets for Generations. James Hughes Jr. If you want to preserve your family wealth, I definitely suggest you get this book. This book was written by a gentleman who interviewed hundreds of families that have been wealthy for 4 generations or more. And he figured out what all of them did, and he put it in this book step by step. I read it. It was suggested to me by a mentor of mine. And this mentor has since passed. But what this mentor did was he and his family started a family bank. And the family bank, all the members that wanted to join the family bank started with $25 per month per family member going into the family bank. Eventually, they raised it to $100 per member, per family member per month going into the family bank. Never went above $100. Now, today, that family has seven figures of assets in their family bank. They have done all sorts of investments in startups, in growing companies. When I talked to them last, which was last year, they were about to buy a Little Caesars franchise. They invested in a casino. They they are doing their thing, and the lessons that they learned came from that book. So I'm going to show you this book again. Family Wealth, Keeping It in the Family, How Family Members and Their Advisors Preserve Human, Intellectual, and Financial Assets for Generations. I definitely suggest you get this book. I also want to show you something else as well, just kind of as a cautionary tale to you. So I'm going to show you two things. This is an article from The Atlantic, specifically about Black middle class kids. They become poor adults. This is in The Atlantic. This was 2016, I think this article came out. Once they've grown up, African American children are more likely than their white counterparts to backslide into a lower economic group. We cannot let this happen. So I'm going to show you two paragraphs here discussing why this is happening. Even Black Americans who make it to the middle class are likely to see their kids fall down the ladder, says Richard Reeves, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute. In a recent blog post, Reeves says that 7 out of 10 Black children who are born of families with income that falls in the middle quintile of the income spectrum will find themselves with income that's 1 to 2 quintiles below their parents during their adulthood. So, why is this happening? The explanations for this phenomenon are varied, but largely hinge on the many criticisms that already exist in regard to socioeconomic and racial issues in the United States. Economists cite lower educational attainment, higher rates of single parent households, and geographic segregation as potential explanations for these trends. The latter determines not only what neighborhoods people live in, but often what types of schools the children attend, which could play a role in the hindering of their educational and professional attainment later on. According to Reeves, in terms of opportunity, there are still two Americas divided by race. Now, I'm going to make a comment here. I think part of this paragraph is complete BS. Okay? There are two Americas, it's rich and poor. There's always going to be black and white, but the real two Americas are rich and poor. Okay? I believe that part of the issue really is, and I'm just going to have to call it like I see it, ladies. It is the single parent household. It is. Because we as women sometimes are so stretched that it's hard for us to go to work, be a boss, come home, do the laundry, keep the house clean, and make sure that our kids are on top of their education. My parents did as good of a job as they possibly could with my education, and they still didn't know everything, right? They didn't know that part of education was me learning how to learn. The rich are getting tutors to teach them how to learn, how to absorb information, how to study in class, how to use study notes, etc. The rich are also setting up their kids to network with each other. For example, I knew when I went to college that I was supposed to get an internship, right? My mother never said, Cherie, you should join the Deltas as well because of the networking you will be able to do. Now, I'm still a pretty good networker, but our parents don't teach us the game, the educational attainment with regards to some of the things that we should be picking up in school, whether it's in grade school, in high school, and in college. So I think there's some high paying, in demand skills that our kids need. Number one is communication skills, written, verbal, and persuasive skills, right? Those are the things we need to be teaching our kids. Number two is lessons in how to learn new things. Because as I showed you the robots initially in my segment here, the things that your kids are going to need 50 years from now, your grandkids, your great grandkids, are not the things you could teach them today. So, one of the greatest gifts you can teach your kids is how to learn new things, how to absorb new information, how to process, how to problem solve, how to strategically think. And I do believe that, again, single mothers, you're working really hard. Um, but this is where if a village can come in and help kind of get the kids on the right track and make sure it's not just financial literacy, it really is people understanding how they are able to learn, kids understanding how they're able to solve problems in the new world and be able to set them up in such a way that they're going to be successful. So you also want to think about the kinds of opportunities that your kids are being exposed to. So, what kind of conferences are you bringing them to? What kind of clubhouse rooms are they going into? They could go in and network with all sorts of people on Clubhouse, talking about artificial intelligence, Web3, robotics, all sorts of things. Um, what kind of meetups you're going to as well as a family. So when we're talking about preserving generational wealth, it is two things again. Number one, setting up your paperwork so your kids don't squander the wealth. But number two, making sure that they have the skills so that when they are ready to move up the ladder, up the corporate ladder, up the entrepreneurial ladder, that they have the skills that they need in order to be able to do it and dominate and just break those walls down. So I showed you all the resources that I have. I think I did. No, I think I have one more. I have one more resource to show you today. There is a woman here. A lot of us are saddled with student loan debt, and there's a woman, Dr. Pamela Ellis, that I really like. She actually teaches your students, your children, most importantly, your teens, how to get college scholarships, how to get full ride college scholarships. She also teaches them, first of all, starting at age 14, your kids are able to start applying to get scholarships from like foundations and things like that. She teaches you how to work with your children throughout the college years in order to set them up so that multiple universities will be throwing money at them and will help them get the money that they need for college. And I really like her. Dr. Pamela Ellis. It is compasscollegeadvisory.com. Compasscollegeadvisory.com. If your young person is anytime in high school, definitely check her out. These are the types of things that we need to really think about as we are talking about generational wealth. How do we set our kids, grandkids, great grandkids up for the success that we need so that, they can take that money and multiply it and grow it as well. So again, one last time, about to head out here. Simple formula for generational wealth. You need to make money, you need to manage it, you need to multiply it, and you need to preserve it. So again, rewind this, check out the resources, and I hope to see you all next week. I'm going to try again to do a live once a week, bring you all some really good information. And most importantly, I want to see Black women win. So that is it for me. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.